What if you were a basketball player who couldn't shoot? Most would say you'd never make it to the NBA. And they'd be right, unless your name is Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq was one of the most dominant and recognizable figures in basketball history. Yet, he made only one three-pointer in his entire 19-year NBA career, and he missed over 5,000 free throws. Even Kobe Bryant, his own teammate, grew frustrated with his shooting. Still, Shaq ended up winning 4 NBA championships, 3 Finals MVPs, and finishing as one of the top 10 scorers in league history.
How?
It all began in Newark, New Jersey, on March 6, 1972, when Lucille O'Neal gave birth to a baby boy she named Shaquille Rashawn O'Neal. The name, meaning Little Warrior, was fitting because life wasn't going to be easy. Shaq grew up bigger than other kids, making him feel out of place. He battled self-confidence issues, and his biological father was absent. It seemed he was headed down a tough road, until a man named Sergeant Philip Harrison stepped in. Harrison, who would later marry Shaq's mother, became the father figure he needed. One Christmas, Harrison gave Shaq tickets to a New York Knicks vs. Philadelphia 76ers game at Madison Square Garden. That night, young Shaq watched in awe as Dr. J soared through the air, and in that electrifying moment, he knew what he wanted to become: an NBA player. His stepfather's response? "I'll make you the best big man of all time." In 1982, the family moved to an army base in Germany, where fate stepped in once again. LSU's head coach Dale Brown was visiting the base, and when he saw 13-year-old Shaq, already towering over grown men, he knew he had to recruit him someday. Coach Brown began sending Shaq motivational letters, game tapes, and a custom training program. But even with all the tools, Shaq couldn't yet dunk. That changed in high school after the family relocated to San Antonio, Texas, and Shaq finally joined the varsity squad at Robert G. Cole High School. He was a force, but still raw. In one game, he missed an easy layup trying to mimic Dr. J. Furious, his father called a timeout, stormed onto the court, and said, "Stop trying to be Dr. J. Be Shaquille O'Neal." That was a turning point. Shaq came back with fury, dunking so hard the opposing players moved out of the way. He didn't want to just score, he wanted to intimidate. But even with this new mindset, he had one critical flaw: free throws. In a crucial high school playoff game, he missed 2 game-tying free throws, ending their season. Shaq was heartbroken and swore he'd never let his team down like that again. The next year, he kept his promise. He led Cole High School to a 35-0 record and a Texas state championship, cementing his legacy as one of the best high school players in the country. But his journey was just beginning. College basketball and bigger challenges were waiting. After dominating Texas high school basketball, Shaquille O'Neal had proven he was ready for the next level. But rather than choosing a powerhouse program, he stayed loyal to Coach Dale Brown, the man who had first believed in him on that army base in Germany. In November 1988, long before he became a national star, Shaq committed to Louisiana State University, LSU. Arriving at LSU in 1989, Shaq faced a surprising challenge. He was no longer the main attraction. The Tigers already had 2 stars, Chris Jackson, a guard with elite shooting skills, later known as Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and Stanley Roberts, another 7-footer. Shaq, used to being the focal point, suddenly found himself the third option. The transition wasn't easy. Stanley earned the starting center spot, and Shaq was relegated to the bench. Still, he made an impact, averaging 13.9 points, 12 rebounds, and a jaw-dropping 3.6 blocks per game as a freshman. But everything changed the next season when Roberts became academically ineligible. Now the starting center, Shaq took over college basketball. Over his next 2 seasons, he averaged 25.8 points, 14.3 rebounds, and 5.1 blocks per game. He was an unstoppable force, swatting shots, dunking with ferocity, and drawing national attention. His dominance earned him the title of National Player of the Year. But there was still one thing he couldn't shake: the free throw curse. Opponents figured it out quickly, foul Shaq, and force him to the line. During his college career, he made just 57% of his free throws, making the strategy often more effective than trying to stop him at the rim. Because of this, LSU never advanced beyond the second round in the NCAA tournament. Shaq's monster stats weren't enough to carry the team to glory. Still, the NBA was watching. Despite his doubts, comparing himself to polished Duke star Christian Laettner, Shaq entered the 1992 NBA draft. He feared Laettner might go number 1 with his smooth jump shot and ball handling. But teams weren't interested in finesse. They wanted dominance. When the draft lottery dust settled, the Orlando Magic landed the first pick. Weeks later, Commissioner David Stern made it official. With the first pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic select Shaquille O'Neal from LSU. Shaq had achieved his dream. But there were still questions. Would his game translate to the NBA? Could he dominate against grown men? The answer came immediately. In his first 5 NBA games, Shaq averaged 25.8 points, 16.4 rebounds, and 3.4 blocks, earning NBA Player of the Week honors, the first rookie to ever do so in his first week. He added 20 wins to Orlando's record. But the free throw problem hadn't gone away. Late in games, teams would foul him relentlessly. In a crucial matchup against the Phoenix Suns, his missed free throws cost the Magic a shot at the playoffs. It was a bitter pill, but also a turning point. That offseason, fate stepped in again. Shaq was cast in the basketball movie Blue Chips, where he met a young star named Anthony Penny Hardaway. Their chemistry was instant. Shaq told the Magic, "Draft Penny." Orlando listened. Sort of. They selected Chris Webber with the #1 pick in the 1993 NBA draft, then traded him to Golden State for Penny and 3 future first-round picks. Shaq had his guy. In the 1993-94 season, Shaq dropped 53 points in a single game, recorded a rare triple-double with blocks, and helped the Magic win 50 games, their best season yet. He wasn't just a dunking machine anymore. He was becoming a franchise cornerstone. But while Shaq and Penny were rising stars, the playoffs told a different story. They were swept in the first round by the Indiana Pacers. Shaq's missed rebounds and free throws came back to haunt him. Again, he was frustrated but not finished. And soon, the world would see the beginnings of something magical in Orlando, a young team ready to take on legends. By the mid-1990s, the Orlando Magic weren't just a fun young team anymore. They were a legitimate threat. With Shaquille O'Neal as the dominant big man and Penny Hardaway as the smooth, all-around guard, Orlando was ready to shake up the NBA. The 1994-95 season was a turning point. Shaq led the league in scoring, averaging 29.3 points per game, and Penny earned a spot on the All-NBA first team. With new veterans like Horace Grant joining the roster, the Magic stormed through the season, finishing with the best record in the Eastern Conference. Their first playoff series against the Boston Celtics was a statement. The Magic crushed them in Game 1 by 47 points, winning the series 3-1. It was the franchise's first ever playoff series win. But their next opponent was about to test their true potential and their nerves. 2 simple words sent shockwaves through the league. "I'm back." Michael Jordan, the most dominant force in basketball history, had returned after 17 months away. The Magic now had to face the Chicago Bulls and the man who had owned the 90s. No one was sure how Shaq would respond. Jordan was the face of the NBA before his retirement, and many wondered if Shaq could become that same kind of icon. The series went back and forth. In Game 1, Shaq showed improvement at the free throw line, hitting 12 of 16 and finishing with 26 points. The Magic stole the game by 3 points. But the Bulls wouldn't go down easily. The series stretched to a critical Game 6, and it wasn't just Shaq doing the damage. Penny had 19 points, Horace Grant added 24, and Dennis Scott chipped in 22. It was a team effort, and Orlando did the unthinkable. They eliminated Michael Jordan and advanced to their first ever Eastern Conference Finals. There, they met a familiar foe, the Indiana Pacers. Led by sharpshooter Reggie Miller, Indiana wanted revenge for past playoff failures. Shaq came out strong, dropping 32 and 39 points in the first 2 games. But trouble struck in Games 3 and 4. Shaq ran into foul trouble, limiting his minutes, and his free throw woes returned, missing 10 of 12 in just 2 games. Indiana tied the series. Back in Florida for Game 5, Shaq exploded for 35 points, barely clinging to a 50% mark from the line. It wasn't pretty, but it was powerful. Then in Game 7, the Magic defense stifled Reggie Miller, holding him to just 12 points. Shaq led the way with 25, and just like that, the Magic were headed to the NBA Finals. Orlando was ecstatic. This was only their 6th season as a franchise, and they were now on the sport's biggest stage. A citywide parade celebrated the achievement. But Shaq and the Magic were about to face a completely different kind of monster. The Houston Rockets, the defending NBA champions, were led by one of Shaq's personal idols, Hakeem Olajuwon, the Dream. Where Shaq relied on brute force, Hakeem used finesse, footwork, timing, skill. And from Game 1, Shaq got a wake-up call. Orlando led by 20 early, but as the game wound down, disaster struck. Shaq had forced a turnover by defending Hakeem brilliantly. All they needed was a free throw to seal the game. But Nick Anderson missed 4 straight. Houston tied the game, and in overtime, their experience shined. Hakeem tipped in a game-winning shot and stole Game 1. The Magic never recovered. Despite Shaq averaging 28 points and 12 rebounds for the series, Houston swept them in 4 games. The Dream was crushed. Shaq would later admit he gave Hakeem too much respect, when what he needed was to dominate. "Before you succeed, you must learn how to fail," Shaq once said. And this was failure, painful, bitter, and unforgettable. But the fall didn't stop there. The next season, in 1995-96, Shaq suffered a thumb injury in preseason, missing 2 months. His beloved grandmother passed away, and when he took time off to grieve, his coach publicly questioned his absence before a big game against Jordan's Bulls. Shaq flew in late and still dropped 21 points, but Orlando lost, and Shaq felt something deeper. He wasn't just a player anymore. He was being treated like a product. That postseason, the Bulls, now rebuilt with Jordan, swept Orlando in the Eastern Conference Finals. Shaq, devastated, began to feel the Magic weren't his long-term home. And then came the final blow. Shaq's contract was up. He asked for $15 million per year, a fair price for a superstar. But Orlando offered just $69 million over 7 years, and a local newspaper ran a poll asking if he was worth it. Over 91% said no. It was clear. Orlando no longer valued their franchise player. Then came the call. The Los Angeles Lakers had just traded for a young guard named Kobe Bryant, and GM Jerry West had a bold vision. He offered Shaq $120 million to join the Lakers. Shaq didn't hesitate. It was the end of an era in Orlando, and the beginning of one in Los Angeles. In the summer of 1996, Shaquille O'Neal took his talents to Hollywood. The Los Angeles Lakers, a team built on legends, Magic, Kareem, Wilt, were now handing their franchise keys to Shaq. And alongside him was a skinny, fearless 17-year-old rookie named Kobe Bryant. Lakers GM Jerry West believed the two could become the NBA's next great duo. But greatness doesn't come easy. And neither did chemistry. Shaq's first few years in LA were productive, but not magical. They kept getting knocked out of the playoffs by the Jazz, the Spurs, more experienced teams. Shaq kept putting up massive numbers, but the criticism followed him everywhere. Too focused on movies. Not in shape. Can't make free throws. Behind the scenes, the tension with Kobe was quietly growing. Both were alpha personalities. Shaq wanted to dominate the post. Kobe wanted to run the offense. Neither wanted to be the sidekick. Then came a game-changing move. The Lakers hired legendary coach Phil Jackson, the Zen master who guided Michael Jordan and the Bulls to 6 championships. His first order of business? Build the offense around Shaq, not Kobe. And it worked. The 1999-2000 season was Shaq's masterpiece. He averaged nearly 30 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 blocks a game. On his birthday, he dropped 61 points. The Lakers won 67 games and were unstoppable in the playoffs, barely. In the Western Conference Finals, down by 15 in Game 7 to Portland, Shaq and Kobe orchestrated one of the most epic comebacks in NBA history. The alley-oop from Kobe to Shaq sealed the game, and their ticket to the finals. Then came redemption. Shaq dominated the Indiana Pacers, putting up 43, 40, 33, 36, 35, and 41 points across 6 games. He won his first NBA championship and was named Finals MVP. He cried tears of joy with Kobe, but the cracks were already forming. The next 2 seasons brought 2 more titles. Back-to-back-to-back championships from 2000 to 2002. A dynasty. Shaq won 3 straight Finals MVPs. No one could stop him. But Kobe was evolving. Fast. In the 2002-03 season, Kobe came into training camp in the best shape of his life. Shaq? Out of shape again. The tension boiled over. Kobe wanted to be the man. Shaq didn't want to give up the spotlight. Then the media feud began. Kobe criticized Shaq's conditioning. Shaq questioned Kobe's selfishness. The relationship was toxic. They still reached the 2004 NBA Finals, but the magic was gone. The Detroit Pistons dismantled them in 5 games. It wasn't just a loss, it was the end. The Lakers had a decision to make, Shaq or Kobe. They chose Kobe. In July 2004, Shaquille O'Neal was traded to the Miami Heat. A new city, a new role, and a new mission. I'm going to bring a championship to Miami. I promise. This time, Shaq did it differently. He kept his body fat under 10%. He built up teammate Dwayne Wade, rather than fighting for control. He played Batman in LA. Now, he was happy being Robin. In 2006, the Heat reached the finals against the Dallas Mavericks. After falling behind 0-2, Miami rallied. D-Wade exploded. Shaq anchored the defense, dominated the paint, and made enough of his free throws to keep the Heat alive. They won 4 straight games, and Shaq delivered on his promise. 1, 2, 3. Shaq. It was his 4th championship. But more importantly, it proved he could win without Kobe, without Phil Jackson, without the Lakers. After brief stints with the Suns, Cavs, and Celtics, Shaq finally retired in 2011. His final numbers? 4x NBA champion, 3x Finals MVP, top 10 all-time scorer, over 5,000 missed free throws, and only 1 three-pointer made, ever. Shaquille O'Neal redefined what it meant to dominate. He didn't need a jump shot. He didn't need finesse. He used size, strength, and swagger to crush everyone in his path. And for every weakness he had, he turned it into a lesson, one that led him to greatness.